Simplifying keyframes. Let's take a moment to look at what we've built and see if there might be ways to optimize things. In this lesson, we'll look at how we can make a more general purpose set of keyframes that can be used in all manner of different ways and eliminate some of the clutter from our CSS files. To continue from the previous lesson, open the sample code zip file and look for folder 03 scroll queue. A completed version of this lesson's code is in the folder 04 simplifying keyframes. When we use animations in CSS, we build our animations as a series of keyframes. We then apply these keyframes to our elements using the animation property. While both are important, it turns out there's a lot of power we can pack into that animation property. We can control timing, duration, and even direction to create all sorts of very different styles of animation, even using the same original keyframes. First, let's take a look at our CSS. In the header CSS file, we have some sets of keyframes near the bottom. We'll focus on these three in particular. There's the fade slide down, the fade slide up, and the pop in keyframes. There's a similar pattern to each of these keyframes. Each one finishes in the same way at the 100% keyframe. The starting 0% keyframe is different, but they all end the same way. We could start by building a no transform animation that looks like this. It's worth noting that you might elsewhere see the 100% keyframe written as 2. When we have keyframes containing just the beginning and end state, we can refer to them as from and to. It's up to you whether you want to use this approach. Either is fine. You may also have noticed that just like in the rotate up keyframes, we don't have a starting state. This is going to be useful when we apply the no transform keyframes to our elements. In our header CSS, we begin with the header before pseudo element. We're using the fade slide down animation here. Instead, let's change it to use no transform. Just changing the animation name isn't enough though. We need to set up the starting state for this animation in this code block. To do this, we add a transform with a translate y of -4 rem. Testing this in the browser, we should see no difference. The background animates by sliding down and fading in just as before. Let's try the title content next. Further down in our CSS file, you'll find a block for the animate pop-in class. This uses the pop-in keyframes. Let's change this to also use no transform instead. Just like before, we're also bringing in the transform that was in the keyframes to set up the starting state. Again, checking in the browser, you'll see nothing has changed. Next, let's have the chevron at the bottom of the screen use the no transform keyframes. In the header down arrow image block, change the animation name and add a transform. And finally, we remove the 3 keyframes we're no longer using. Fade slide down, fade slide up, and pop in. The results should again look no different, but we've removed quite a lot of code, as well as creating a versatile little keyframes we can now apply anytime we want an animation to end in a non-transformed state. In this lesson, we took a look at our CSS and found a way to streamline it. We created a handy set of keyframes we can reuse as needed, as well as saw how powerful the animation property can be. In our next lesson, we add more polish to the hero header by waiting till our image assets are ready before we show the content.